record. That is going to record, and this is going to be live. Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Louis B. Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland, Drunk Log. Incredible book. Been talking about it. And today I'm delighted and honored to have the author, Mark E. Scott. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Louis.
Thanks for suffering my madness. Believe me, I know I'm whacked. Nobody knows it better than I. I appreciate you. I appreciate your patience, I guess I'll say, with me. And I'm delighted to have you. Before we get into the book, tell us a bit about your background, if you would.
Grew up in Ohio and Michigan. We moved around quite a bit. I was an Army brat, but I might as well have been. Got good at making friends. Ended up back here in the Cincinnati area, and ended up going into the Navy from here. When I got out, I came back here and went to college locally and started working, and I haven't left since. Other than vacations.
Of course, writing for you. When you first put, I mean, I know younger people probably don't put pen to paper as much as we older people do, but for you, maybe you typed it out or whatever. Now I'm going to start thinking of word processors. You typed it out. What was the tipping point for you to say, I'm going to write?
It's something I started doing when I was 8. So it started off with I was third grader, and one of those little things you do in third grade to keep students busy. Hey, let's make, notebooks. So took a bunch of maybe 10 or 15 pages of paper, doubled it over, and then put some construction paper as a cover on it and stapled it down the center, so you could have, that was your binding. and just started writing mean things about my classmates in it. That's how I got started.
Seriously? Mean things about your classmates?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely. A riot. That's a riot. That is a riot, Mark. That's a riot. And just continue to, correct?
Yeah, I just found I had stuff to write about, and I remember my buddy Andy and me, when we were 14 or 15, tried writing a book, an actual book. We probably got, maybe 8 pages into it before we wanted to go outside again. But and then I remember trying to write a screenplay, based in the same, Mel Brooks. I just thought Mel Brooks was hilarious. So
I love Mel Brooks.
Yeah. So I wanted to write something really crazy like that. And again, an unfinished project, but I would sit there in my bed at night and write out a screenplay. And I don't know how to write a screenplay. It's a whole different kind of writing. So didn't finish that. Didn't try another book till I got in the Navy. I was on a ship, and there was plenty of, and I had access to a typewriter and quiet space. So I think I tried writing another book or 2 while I was on the ship. Failed to finish both of those. Finally, I went to school, and when I got out of school, I finished the first novel I ever finished. It's called King of Peru. So
what I love about that is you didn't get frustrated with the writing, the early writing, the books that you didn't finish. You pushed forward until you, I don't know, found
in
your head or what?
Young man's hubris, I guess. It's like, I'm going to do this, and then you've also got an 80 or 100-year runway, and you're going, oh, I can do this tomorrow. And so I
love that.
Yeah, I just I thought I figured eventually I'd finish one, and I did. And it was, I tried getting it published, and I joked with my ex-wife, I could have papered a small bathroom with all my rejections. And I just knew, see, I just knew that it was perfect. So I didn't even edit it myself. I just started sending it out as soon as it was done. It was, and I think it's a good story, but the
It's a
right.
good, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I've probably edited it 2 or 3 times since then.
It's interesting to me because, a lot of people would give up. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that were going to write a screenplay and started and stuff. And I'm not criticizing them. Maybe it just wasn't for them, or a book, or started, or a song, or whatever, and just said, yeah, not for me, whatever. You pushed through. And when you say that about the rejection letters, every rejection letter, or every, if somebody doesn't get a job, it gets you closer to achieving what you wanted. Would you agree? Because
Absolutely.
you were persistent.
Yeah. You gotta tell yourself that, when, if you're lucky, you've got a couple people who really believe in you. And then those are the people who tell you to keep going. And in the meantime, you're, raising a family and working a job and trying to live a normal life. And then, you're huddled in some chair at 11 or 12 at night, hiding from everybody, trying to write a few sentences before you go to bed. And I was actually, it's funny you said, because I was actually thinking the other day, how many half-finished novels are in the bottom drawer of desks around the world?
Yeah.
Because you get interrupted. And I thought, well, I'm blessed that I've gotten this far,
Yeah. Well, again, I use the word blessed a lot. You pushed through. It was you that pushed through, be it divine inspiration or whatever. You pushed through. Like you say, how many are unfinished novels are out there? And I'm sure plenty. Again, people trying for whatever reason, and
literally millions, I'm sure.
And Mark, life happens for people, where they couldn't, for whatever, job, health issues. I'm not being critical. I would hope that someday later in their life, they pick it up and finish it. Great. But there could be other circumstances that they couldn't. I mean,
maybe they found they hated it. Maybe they found they hated writing,
That's a good point. I have a dear friend who's writing a nonfiction, and he told me he had written from like almost 24 hours straight. Obviously, he ate something, I'm hoping, went to the bathroom or whatever, but he exhausted himself to the point where it was bad, but he
burned it out.
So inspired to do it.
Yeah.
That he, and you got to take those breaks.
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Well,
I mean, as long
well,
as
no, I think I do. I mean, I get to 500, 1,000 words, and maybe it's time just to go to the bathroom or walk around outside a little bit. You gotta remind yourself that there's a world outside of the world you're creating. On the
that's
page.
interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. There's something, because you get so locked into it, and it's obviously becomes so real for you. See, when you get old, you'll know when you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go. There's thinking, you know what?
Can I know that now?
No, you can, but not like you will decades on the road. I understand when they used to say about old people, never pass a bathroom without at least giving it a shot. You don't know where the next one is, and you don't know about the urgency. But again, you're so involved in it that you have to remember there's another world out there. And I could see that, especially or with novelists. I guess, I'm sure people are that write nonfiction. I love nonfiction also. They're really dedicated to it and may not want to stop. But when the creative juices are flowing for a novelist, you really don't want to cut them off, correct? And again,
oh God, no, you're spot on. You are spot on. Once you've got, and sometimes it's not even a direction you thought you'd go or that you want to go. And I found myself deleting paragraphs and pages because I'm like, no, I'm too close to the end. I can't start this whole other thing. But your voice becomes the voice of your characters and what's happening with them. And the way I've characterized it in the past is that, you know, you sort of create the beginning of the character, then the character becomes themselves and they're going to do whatever they're going to do. And if you try to trick people into believing they're going to do something else, people know, you know, the characters are real.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because a number of years ago, I had a novelist, number of years ago, and when I was asking him about the process, he said, well, they take on a life of their own.
Yes.
I'll be writing something and the character will say to me, I never forget, this really impacted me. The character say, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
You know better. And I hear that. I hear that from you. I've heard that from others. And I think that creativity, and really, again, that's what makes like your novel and others so much better, that you don't, I don't, maybe I shouldn't say you allow that to happen. It just happens. Correct?
No, it just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll scream at you.
Yeah.
You know, or sometimes, you know, I find, and maybe you noticed sometimes a character just blurts something out.
Yeah.
I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
How
I
did
like that though. I like that. I like that. The other, and again, to bust myself or embarrass myself, when I first started, you know, when I was young, I can remember a novel that I read, God, I don't know, 40 plus years ago. And I loved nonfiction. I loved learning things. And when in my early radio days, after publicists, not real early, how about having this novelist on? And in my mind, and I don't mean this mean, although I probably should, this is one of those, my greatest assets, also my greatest liability, no filter between my brain and my mouth. I thought, so, and it sounds terrible. What am I going to ask them? Tell me about the story you made up? And I know that sounds, I cringe thinking that's how I was thinking years ago. What I've learned is it's incredible because, and again, I'm not juxtaposing nonfiction and fiction. If it's nonfiction, yeah, you're doing research about things that are there, that you're,
Sure.
in fiction, you are creating a world. And that creativity just blows my mind.
Well, I do understand you're saying. So, what about this story you made up?
Yeah, and again, I
kind of get that.
I don't.
Yeah.
It sounds meaner than how I felt about it. I just, where do you go with that? Where do you go with that?
Yeah.
And I have learned and so appreciate a good novelist, because you do create that, and the images that you create, and they do, when you're reading it, do become real. I felt, again, we're going to get into drunk log. I keep saying that. Just, I felt that I was in the bar.
Oh, good.
Seriously, Mark, I felt, one time I think I had to get up and have a beer just to enhance the feeling. Oh, it was probably more than once. Yeah. But I felt that. How you describe things, I could see myself there, which I love about it, because it becomes, again, real for the reader, real for me.
I love hearing that.
There.
Yeah, I love hearing that.
That's from my heart. I mean, that's absolutely how I felt very early in the book also.
Good.
It wasn't like I had to develop, which it did, but I felt I was right along there. It was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, which is a great feeling. It's good, I know, for you to hear, but it was great for me because it enhanced the experience for me.
I don't know if you could give me a better compliment than you just gave me. So,
well, it's sincere, Mark.
Yeah.
It's 100% sincere. MarkEScottAuthor.com. We've got those links up at louisfreeshow.com and wfmj.com, etc. Drunk Log, A Day in the Life, Book 1. So the inspiration, the tipping point, whatever, that you decided to put your fingers on the keyboard instead pen to paper to write this.
that one came from a hike with an astrophysicist, oddly enough. And I hope she's not listening. She's a bit of a drinker. And she was just telling me one night she went out and she wanted to record everything she was feeling as she got drunker. And like a scientist would, she wrote it down in a notebook, after every drink. And I'm like, holy crap, I love that.
Yeah.
So she said I could have the idea. I came back to Cincinnati and told my buddy about it, another writer. And he goes, "Oh my God, that's a great idea, but you got to build the story on it. Why is your character doing it? Not just to get drunk,
Right. Yeah.
And I said, okay, so that's where I sort of built the story with the engineer and why he would do such a thing and why he might not be very good at the writing part early on. And yeah, that's how I built. And then that was the beginning. That was the inspiration. Just having that conversation with somebody.
Was that Liz that?
No,
I mean,
Liz is the
Dr.
you're
Liz.
talking about acknowledgements.
Yeah.
Liz is one of the psychiatrists who helped me
Okay.
with the character development.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. She's an old friend.
So when you first write about it, you had to come up with a reason other than just that, well, I'm logging my drinking through
Right.
that period.
Which might have been interesting enough in and of itself, but I couldn't think, my friend had a great idea. He goes, build a reason for it.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
And then I thought of what's the movie Leaving Las Vegas, where it's the drunk and the prostitute. And
okay. Yeah.
If you recall, and the whole story is just him killing himself drinking. Yeah. And I thought I could kind of scam on that, but I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't also, because do you want to share a little bit about what the reason was for the drunk log? Why I was writing? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, so the elevator speech is, Jack is a 30-year-old engineer he's responsible for the death of his 7-year-old nephew. And that happened a year before. And he's had a very difficult year. His family has sort of shunned him. And he's an engineer, so he thinks very logically. And he says, well, life really isn't working out for me the way I had hoped. And it looks like there's going to be no end and no redemption. And so he decides very logically that, why continue? And that's the beginning of the story right there.
And again, we're not going to do any spoilers, but the plan was to get really, and please tell me if I'm wrong here or not wrong, but you need to expound on it. He's going to get so trashed, if you will, and then go into the river.
Yeah. And that's established early on. So I don't think we're giving anything away.
Yeah.
And I think one person said, well, drunk enough to throw yourself off a bridge, but not too drunk to write about it. So is that a Huntington pen?
It is.
Okay.
Is that the bank you were?
I used to.
No, yeah, because I saw in your bio, I love this, that you enrolled in Miami University and completed a degree in education and then became a banker soon after. That's great. I love that. We could probably talk more about the path of that another time, but yes, it is a Huntington pen. And I don't have a Huntington account, by the way.
That's okay. They're great pens.
Yeah, they are great pens. Yeah. I love these pens. What's interesting about Huntington, since we're not digressing a little bit, just talking about, I get text messages that probably a couple a month that want me to click on a link. They say it's because something about my Huntington account. And I know these can send out millions of those. And they're going to come upon people that have a Huntington account. I mean, I don't click on the link at all, but it's just
good.
It's a scam. And it's like, wait a minute, why would I click on a link that from a 410 area code? It's always from a 410 area code because I don't have an account there, but I do love the pens. Sorry about going off on that. the idea of that, I think, I don't want to say, and again, in all honesty, and many years ago on the show talking about suicide, and what I said was, well, I think everybody's thought about suicide at one point in
Of
their
course. Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I have to tell you, that freaked a number of people out. They were saying, "Well, not me. Not what's wrong with you? Are you?" And in fairness, or not fairness, in appreciation, I had some people reach out to me off air to see, what are you saying about, are you
Wow.
are you going to hurt yourself? Which I love that when people, believe me, there's friends of mine, when I read or they tell me how tough things are getting, or I always say, are you thinking of hurting yourself? You need to tell me. And then some of them
Yeah.
freak out. It's like, no, I'm just, but you need to know. So when I say, but you agree that, I mean, you feel that, let's say many people contemplate.
I honestly, I don't know how you don't. I'm not saying seriously. I'm not saying you
Yes,
go,
yeah, you're not
no,
planning.
I'm going to make a whole plan. No, I think sometimes everybody hits low points. Everybody, all of us. I mean, if you've lived at all, you've been at very low points in your life where, for whatever reason, you've been driven down, and you're like, man, how do I get up another day? How do I do this? Okay. So what when it's funny, you're talking about people calling you. My oldest daughter loves the book. Like, it's the first book she's ever
Beautiful.
read by me. The
How old
first
is
one.
she?
She's 26.
Oh, wonderful.
And she then she goes, "Are you okay?"
See, I love
Yeah.
that though, right? I
Yeah.
mean, for her to, obviously, she cares. Obviously, you raised a wonderful daughter,
Yeah.
because that's like my reaction with with when people allude to it or say something, or I'd be better off dead, or whatever, or they're telling about tragedies in their life. I think that's wonderful. How did you feel when she asked
I
you?
I I uh I was out of my shoes because we have kids, and we don't, when they're little, we're the center of their universe and all that. And then they grow up and they start doing their own thing. And the fact that she could come back and go and read it, and just, it was an honest reaction. Because Louis, I'm sure you can get reactions to some shows where it's like, yeah, there were sure a lot of words, and
Yeah.
there was that one word on
Frequently.
page 253 that was awesome, and but it was a very honest reaction. Um, yeah, it was lovely. It was just really lovely to have my child kind of get my lifelong dream, um, and like it, that I hadn't wasted my time, for uh, decades, trying to get this far. And yeah, it was great. I
And I
can't,
love that she expressed, I
yeah.
believe that people need to do that. One of the things that I feel about suicide, if we can stay on that a minute, Mark, the interesting, because at low points, and it's been explained to me by others, you don't understand how dark it gets for people that
Yeah.
attempt or commit suicide. You don't understand. Well, what I do understand, and I feel that it is some people don't like when I say it, selfish act,
Oh,
because,
yes.
right, because you're going to be, if, and I'm not planning, I'm not doing, if we had this conversation and later today I committed suicide, even this is our first time talking, might think, what didn't I see? What didn't I
Yeah.
hear? What was he trying to say to me? And that could haunt you, especially for people that are close to you, the rest of your life. You think, I should have called him that night. I knew he
Yeah.
was going, and I think that's torturous and vicious to the people you leave behind. I'm out of, again, not saying what the afterlife may or may not be. I'm out of that physical, mental issues that were plaguing me I'm free from them.
You are, but no one else is.
No one else is, because
And they're left holding the
wonder.
bag, and they'll never be able to solve the problem. They'll
never be able to. Yeah.
Once you're dead, the problem solving is gone.
And it doesn't matter what kind of letter you leave or recording or whatever. I just think it's cruel to friends and family.
Yeah. I agree. I even though I've certainly had passing thoughts,
I've been there.
In the end, it's a sort of a coward's way out. Unless you're a Japanese business owner that's lost a lot of money. And then
it's different. Yeah. So
then you're doing it for honor.
Doing it for honor. Yet again, something like you say about that, and leaving the people with that horrible, it's got to be horrible.
Yeah.
You're always going to wonder, well, I should have called him last night. I knew he was struggling with something, and you're going to think that the rest of your life. You're never going to have peace. So and I think that also helps keep people, that thought, I don't want to expose too much, that is important for me to think about, has been important for me at certain points in my life.
Sure.
And again, when they explain, well, you don't understand the dark place that you do. I've been in some pretty dark places, but I'm not selfish enough or vicious enough to do it. We better get off that. I'm starting to think.
That's no. I don't. We can go full on Bukowski if you want.
When you start the book and you talk about Troy sitting on his favorite uncle's lap and what happened, when I read that, and that's chapter 1, beginning of chapter 1, that was really interesting how you opened the book with that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Comment on that at all?
I was striving to pull the reader right in.
You did. You did with this reader.
Okay, great. So I thought, I'm not a flowery writer. I like to think of myself as spare and I want you to be able to start reading it and just keep reading and not wanting to put it down. And so I thought we could just dive right into the problem for the main character, and then that carries over, as you're aware, the opening of each chapter deals with that incident, and then goes into Jack, and then Jack and Aria and their story. But it was probably one of my better openings.
Well, it's great. It was intriguing, and you wondered, and did get right into it. And then you start with speaking with self, logging, and then it's that process was interesting, and some of the thoughtfulness. Again, not doing spoilers of, well, should I have more than one drink at how do I actually plan it out?
Right.
That the thought. I love that part of me thinking, well, how actually do I do this? How actually do I do the drunk log?
I thought the opening with the boy, all of us can relate to that with our fathers or our favorite uncle, and granted, nowadays you don't sit the kid on your lap like you did when I can remember being 5 years old. My dad put me on his lap on the highway. Hey, hold the steering wheel.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to drink this beer, and you steer it.
That's and people, pre seatbelts and all the
right
things that
seatbelts. What's that?
Now there's airbags and all the other what they call them, 3-point or whatever seatbelts and things, and people don't. I'm certainly old enough. I'm a lot older than you to remember those days without seatbelts, and how if you were driving with and I'll still do it, if you were in the car and your parent or uncle or whomever had to hit the brakes, they always put the hand to hold you back,
because they had enough shoulder strength to hold back that 80 pounds of flying flesh there.
And it was an attempt to make sure that the kid, and it was a reaction. Obviously it wasn't thoughtful. You don't have the time to think about it, but he just reacted. And
think of absolutely. So I'll tell you a quick story about
Please.
and then we'll get back to the book here. But I used to when my daughter would get home from school, the one who's 26 now, she was maybe 14. I'd let her drive the car up the driveway to the front of the garage.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that.
And so my son and I pile in. I'm in the front, he's in the back, and it's maybe 50 yards, but I'm just like, hey, just go really slow. Well, she hits the accelerator and I'm trying to reach over to throw it into park or get to the brake. Somehow we went right into the back of the garage, which luckily was 6 inches of cement, but the ruined a toolbox, punctured the bumper. My son had flown off the back seat. Luckily he was.
I shouldn't be laughing, but it's funny.
Well, oh my God, and scared the heck out of my daughter, of course.
Oh, both of you. I mean, had to scare everybody.
So I should have just, she's a little too big to put on my lap. So you just try it yourself. Let's just try this thing, and it worked. It worked 9 out of 10 times. So
that one time was.
Yeah, kept that car for another 4 years after that. So yeah.
Well, it was precious then, right?
It was broken in for sure.
Yeah, that was, yeah, literally. Yeah. I'm talking with Mark E. Scott, website markescott.com, Drunk Log, A Day in the Life, book 1. And with book 1, when I first looked at that, again, no filter between the brain and my mouth. You're doing what about continuing to write in this vein? I'll say it very generically.
That is nice and generic. Thank you. So it is the same characters. So through a 24-hour period. So this book is 8 hours essentially. The next book is 8 hours, and the final book is the last 8 hours of a day. So that's where A Day in the Life sort of originated. And so the spoiler is clearly they live to go on for at least for 16
You're doing
more
the
hours.
Spoiler, not me.
Maybe I kill them in the end. Maybe I don't. I don't
know. So the second book is this is a selfish question, will be out.
Well, the publisher's working on it now. So I'm thinking a month or 2.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's selfish because I'm ready to read.
That's so kind of you to say.
No, it's honest. Mark, it's honest. I like the thought of people perceiving me as kind, certainly, but that's straight up. That was a selfish question, because I wanted to know. Other people that haven't read the book yet may not wonder, but
I hope they want to know.
When once they read it, they will.
Yeah. Because
you really you have a way, a style of writing, again, I get really immersed in it, as I was saying earlier. And again, there's other novels that are great. They're wonderful. It's rare for me to actually feel that I'm there. Like, again, sitting at the bar, observing what's going on. It was interesting when it came to me, because it's like, wow, I feel like I'm there. Wow. It wasn't like, let me imagine what it would be like if I were sitting, of course someone could do that. It was like, I hate to say a light bulb. It's like, wow, I feel like I'm there with your writing style. I keep repeating that, but I think that's incredible. You're good time-wise, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Louis Be Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland, copyright Be Free Radio Limited, 2022, produced by the lovely Ms. Bunny Face in cooperation with White Rabbit Productions. Are you anticipating, Mark, swearing at all, or I can do an adult disclaimer?
I do swear.
Okay, well, let's do it. The Louis Be Free Radio Show, Brain Food from the Heartland, is an adult-oriented show intended for and only for a mature adult audience. Listener discretion is strongly advised. What does that mean, folks? If you can't hang, now's the time to drop off. Great. You'll regret it, though, not hearing more from Mark E. Scott, markescott.com. Again, that feeling, that sense of it. And one of the other things, and I'm, by the way, folks, if you're following along at home, I'm on page 3. Obviously, we're not going to do the book. It's not going to, but I love that, liquor before beer and all that. It was like I started on my first drink of the evening, probably a mistake to start with beer. Now that I think about it, liquor before beer and all that. It was news to me.
Liquor before beer, beer before liquor, never sicker.
Oh,
Yeah.
beer before liquor, never sicker.
Yeah. I was reminded of that by another friend the other day. I'm like, what? Because she was talking about that. Well, you put it in the book.
Yeah.
Like, which one is that again?
So
beer before beer before liquor, never sicker.
Wow. Where does that come from? Do you?
Probably some drunk in Shakespearean drunk, liquor before beer before liquor, never quicker. But
Yeah, I was in
it's lost to the annals of time. Who knows where
somebody, yeah. I just thought it was really interesting. And you write from the perspective of people reading it as you write in the book. Now I'm back to page 2. Sorry. That way anyone who reads it can make sense of what I am about to do.
Yeah. So the drunk log is I intended to be sort of his last will and testament to the world. So is his attempt to explain, as you and I were discussing, if you're going to off yourself, you leave somebody else holding the bag, and his attempt to explain as much of that as possible to whoever cared to read about it, yeah.
It was interesting for me. And if one more of that, posterity, as one of the lines you use early in the book, again, no spoiler, the results I leave to posterity, from whom I also ask forgiveness.
Yeah.
Posterity, tell me.
So he's thinking of posterity as if he's writing a letter to a long letter to a person. And, in a way, I guess there's an arrogance there, because you're thinking, well, somebody will want to read this. Or maybe a number of people, or not. So that's the arrogant assumption, because he doesn't know if anybody will find it or care to read it or give a crap at all what he has to say. Just like any of us, except you. So
Mark, that's great. Again, when you do this with the bar crawl, if you will, thinking, did you have like an outline laid out? Again, I'm fascinated by the process of did you sort of, if you don't mind, and if this is something you'd rather not say, that's cool too. But did you kind of have it planned out, or did it develop?
Yeah, great question.
Maybe a combination of both. I don't know. I'm not a writer.
I've oddly enough been to a number of bars within walking distance of my house here, or my
a lot of bars also.
There you go.
See, by looking at me, right?
And we're talking about the neighborhood. OTR now is just chock full of
the over the line neighborhood in Cincinnati. Yeah,
so I'm lucky enough as a writer to have this as sort of a backdrop to the story, and it's very easy for me to go, well, here's how the interior of this bar looks, and here's how the interior of this bar and this bar and this bar and this bar, because I've been to all of them. So to answer your question, I did not initially have a plan for him. I wasn't even sure I was going to let him leave the first bar, and then he wanted to. Then he had to leave because he didn't want to involve Aria in his scheme. And
the bartender,
yeah, who ends up with their own storyline, and everyone, all the guys I've known have fallen in love with Aria. I think women too. I mean, did you love Aria?
I love her. Yes. Very,
She's
very much as it
courageous. Yeah.
developed. Yeah, very, very much.
And
That that character development was incredible.
thank you. So I did have him, if you recall it, in one chapter, he's at another bar and he's like, you know what, maybe I need to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
So he comes with a ridiculously, difficult plan, as an engineer's brain would be able to come up with a stupidly difficult plan to accomplish, to go to point A to point B, and then quickly forgets it because it's like, well, I'm half drunk, I've already forgotten my plan. So I gave Aria a different route because she's more methodical. He's sort of a bumblebee going bar to bar. She's more methodical because she's trying to hunt him down.
And again, with the two different characters, as you said earlier, they develop kind of, I know it's from your mind, but they kind of develop their own character. You give them a starting point and then they tell you. I'm just fascinated. I am blown away by that. By the way, with respect to some people that I know, some friends that were big in the IPA craze, if you will. I love that when you had him saying, I don't like IPAs, and then I never understood the IPA craze. I thought, well, I'll drink them if.
So you're the same then.
I am the same.
I'm not trying to trash a whole industry. I'm just saying,
no, they're very popular.
I think our brewers have relied a little too heavily on IPAs, and then now I'm gonna start hurting people's feelings. And then I think a great many people really do like them, and then there's all these other people like, well, everybody loves IPAs, so I'm going to drink IPAs.
That's right. Yeah, that's what it was the hip, or is the hip thing to do, or trends, and people want to follow the trends. And
what's the most bitter IPA you have?
Yeah,
give it to me. And then it sucks, and you feel like you got to drink half a gallon of water just to get the taste
out of your mouth, right?
Moisture back into your mouth. But
I have friends that love IPAs, and so it's just not for me. I'm glad there's other beers out there.
Yeah,
I can drink one or two if necessary.
Any port in a storm, right? Any
more medicinally. It's certainly not my preference. And it was like, I bonded with you when you wrote that. I didn't know if that was your actual, the characters thing, or your actual. I don't want you. No, you better not. You better not.
Okay.
Better not. I don't want to. Let me.
I don't want to hurt any feelings. Or
it's not. It's how you feel. It's Mark. I guess the way I look at it is, there's some people that don't like certain, let's say, ethnic foods or certain foods. Fortunately, there's so many styles of cooking and different foods that just because you don't like it isn't an affront to someone else that does. So I don't think anybody would be insulted by that. It's a different taste, different opinion, right?
Absolutely. You're exactly right, Louis.
That's how I feel. Seriously, that's how I feel. Believe me, I eat some unusual things that other people don't like. I shouldn't start listing them. A favorite of mine, it's Chinese style bitter melon, or kugwa, and I love it. I don't know why. I don't know why the bitter taste is so wonderful for me. But I was in this is decades ago in Chinatown, New York, and ordered the kugwa, the bitter melon, and the waitress said, "It's not for you." I said, "Well, I know what it is." I mean, we had this discussion. It was pleasant, but I know what it is because people, I guess, of non-Asians, they didn't want to serve it to because they say, "Oh, this is awful." Yet I love it. I'm sorry to go off on that. Other people don't. I don't know anybody else personally that likes it.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, bitter melon. It's if you go to a Chinese restaurant, that's what it's called. But again, it's the taste. It's the individual taste. That's what makes the world so great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
the character doesn't like IPAs. I don't like IPAs. Other people do. So there's something for everybody, I guess. Sorry, I went off on that.
No, no.
But it's yeah, it's how some people are, and you have that opinion there. And I just felt bonded when I heard
Wonderful.
that, because I haven't heard anyone actually say that. I'm sure there's
Well, I'm starting a movement.
yes, it's the IPA or
No, it's okay not to drink IPA. That's the movement name right there.
that's great. Yeah, that's great. The trends, right? People start getting into the trends. When you, and I also love the part in the book, by the way, the book Drunk Log, I'm going all over the place, Mark. Sorry, Mark E. Scott, author.com. The website, markescottauthor.com. Drunk Log, A Day in the Life, book 1. I can't wait for book 2 to come out. And I also love the piece that he couldn't remember having a productive chat with a pothead. And again, not giving all the background.
Right.
Even when he was the pothead in question, and it went on and on. I love that part, because one of my favorite things to do, and I think it's obvious by looking at me or my age or whatever, yes, I've smoked pot. I haven't, what's odd is now it's like quasi-legal.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't smoked pot in years, and I always say I have the hair to prove it for a drug test. I just haven't. But I remember when I was actively involved, one of my favorite things to do, if I came into a friend's house and there were a couple of guys, a few people sitting around smoking pot, listening to albums, I always loved, before I was high, to insert in the conversation. I was in the process, by the way. Of course, I sat down, the joint got passed to me. I would say, all of a sudden, what were we just talking about? I'll tell you, you want to have fun. It's not malicious. If you're around people that are smoking pot or high, just pause and then say, what were we just talking about? And everybody starts to look at each other. I mean, I know maybe it sounds mean, but it always entertained me. Because, and again, I love the fact that you said, even when he was the pothead in question, never had. Can I ask where that?
Oh, well,
idea
I
came
mean, I'm like you. It's too powerful for me now. And
Right.
so back in the day when you could actually enjoy it and not worry about, being on the kitchen floor, I remember all the dumb conversations I had, and if you're smoking dope, you're not solving the world's problems.
But you think you are.
You absolutely think you are.
Yeah.
And then if you can remember any of them the next day, that's when you kick yourself in the ass for it.
Yeah. Or if you wrote something down, it's like, what?
That was genius 12 hours ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's like ridiculous. Mark, the other part when you were saying about how strong it is today, I used to enjoy the process of getting high. I'm really digressing. The process, you could sit around, share a joint, whatever, and depending on how much you smoked, it got a little more intense. Or you could. Now, the last pot I smoked, it was like, it's too strong. Very honest.
You go 0 to 60, right?
Yeah, right away. And
yeah.
I used to enjoy the process of getting high, not instantly being high.
Alcohol is controllable. See, I'll pull us back to his rationale. Alcohol is controllable. You can control your intake. You know exactly what it's going to do to you if you've ever done it before.
Yes.
You can see it coming. You can see the storm coming. I don't know any drug that exists like that other than alcohol.
And that's a really good point. You were able to. You're able to. Drinking a 12-ounce beer that's X amount of % alcohol. I know what's going to happen after 1, what's going to happen after 2.
Right.
You just don't know.
You can have a glass of water and slow the process. You can eat a bowl of fries, and
that's right. That's right.
There's all kinds of stuff you can do to slow things down.
Or you can chug 2 beers and get past it if you want. So I love that. I love some of the analysis that you do. His thought process is just fantastic. I keep saying this, but that your creativity with that thought process, is fantastic. I probably said that 100 times already.
Okay, I can take another 100.
Okay. Well, I'm going for it again to have that sense that you're with him, or in the bar, in the place, observing while he's writing and drinking, whatever, or making eyes at Aria.
All right.
And yeah, again, I keep. I'm sorry, I've got all these things about the Clash. Should I stay or should I go? I hadn't listened to the Clash in years, and that's in the book also. As you started to get, I hate to say, towards the end of book one, what do you recall what that was feeling like for you?
You know, yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you say you were placing yourself, able to place yourself there, that's what I was doing too. So I'm walking next to my characters like, oh, you just got hit by a scooter, you know? And as he heads south towards the river, once he is able to unload Kevin, that's the part where I'm like, okay, now that's when this is the moment now. And he recognizes that too on the bridge when he sits against the bridge abutment in the storm, writing in that notebook, that he doesn't even know what he's supposed to, you know, he's sort of determined where it's going to go before he goes. Yeah, that's some, I remember all that. Yeah, absolutely. Did you have
It was just it's interesting to me because I thought about that, about the author, again, writing about it, but where you were at, and obviously placing yourself there. I mean, I guess you'd have to be able to do that. Just that feeling and how it progressed. And we were talking about earlier how you didn't have it all laid out. Probably had an idea of what, they always say begin with the end in mind. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. But I'm not sure, right? Because as it progressed, as the writing process and the characters telling you who they are, or what they would or wouldn't do.
Well, I started off with two potential endings, and because of from a publishing perspective, needing to keep them alive, I chose that ending. But I was going to go full Russian novelist and kill them off at the end. But I thought that would be so non-American. We're so used to happy endings in our own literature and our own, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, that's what we all hope for and aspire for, or to rather. So I like, not to sound egotistical, but I liked how I handled the ending.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be, I hope anyway, you found it surprising yet poignant.
Very much so. What I love, and I appreciate your humility and modesty, Mark Scott. I very much so. But again, this is your work. You did this, and I would think I would be surprised if someone turned in a book or a manuscript or whatever that didn't like the ending. If you didn't like the ending, why don't you? You're writing it.
Fix it.
You're writing it. Fix it. Yet there are people out there that, I don't know, maybe once it's out for a while, they start to rethink, or I could have done this better, or right. I should have done
Oh
this.
my God. I mean, we're tortured. Aren't you don't you walk away from a show torturing yourself about what you could have done better, but it's too late. You can't change anything from 10 seconds ago.
My thing, yes, absolutely. I do it frequently. I love to cook, and I don't recipe cook. I may use it as a basis, but I just like that. Let me try this. Let me try that. I should stick to recipes sometimes.
I trust those recipe writers.
Yeah, I do also. I do also, but I'm thinking, well, that's not spicy enough. That needs more of this. Or come on, get the garlic in there. I mean, let's get it, whatever. And the problem is, again, I'm not comparing the two talents. I'm not a talented cook. You are a very talented and skilled writer. My problem is I'll taste it and it's like a curry, and it's like, that's good. That's good. But what if I put something else in, whatever, more curry, whatever it is. And then I think, I should have left it alone. I should have walked away from it before, as opposed to changing it. And now it's just not.
It's easy to overthink.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah. No, it's super easy. And when I'm writing, luckily I have a group of friends that go, no, too much. If I'm diving too deep into somebody's psyche, or there's just too much going on, like, you got to pull this back. It's 4 sentences too much, or 2 sentences too much. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, grateful for their input.
Yes.
And it's what I like about the friends that you rely on. If you're a real friend, you're going to tell somebody.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go along to get along. It's like, oh, Mark, that's great. That's great. You need to tell them. It doesn't mean they're going to change it, but their opinion is that, and then you can ponder it and you decide.
It's funny you say that. I often don't take advice. But once 3 or 4 people say the same thing, especially if they're not sitting around a table, you got to start listening at that point, going, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe that's universal. So
maybe you're getting that opinion. And again, you listen to it when you hear it over and over. And again, I like that your friends are honest enough and comfortable enough giving their opinion to you.
Yeah. Well, I do buy them beer once every 2 weeks. So.
Well, but if you buy them beer every once or 2 weeks, they may want to just say, oh, that's great. That's great. Get us another one, another round.
Right.
Round for the table, right?
Trying to make them obligated to me somehow.
Yeah, that's great. When the book came out, how about the response? Tell us a little bit about the response that you're getting. You're hearing mine, obviously.
Yeah. It was, I'm very happy. I'm very happy with how the book has been received, and I'm blown away at how much support, and all the reviews, and it's just incredible, really. It scares me also, hoping that the next ones will be as good, and I'm going to assume, because I had a good friend just offhandedly say, well, because she goes, well, of course you're a better writer now. I said, what do you mean? She goes, well, you get, it's like a muscle, you're going to get better all the time. And she,
that's great.
She was referring to I said, so what, hold on a sec. Are you saying that book 2 is better than book 1? And she goes, well, yeah. And book 3 is better than that. I'm like, oh, thank God. Thank God. I gave her like all my money at that point.
And bought more beers.
Right.
Again, I appreciate that it scares you. I would hope that, again, you're where you are with writing them, but it would be more inspirational.
I want, one of my aspirations is to make every book better than the one before it, no matter what it is, because shouldn't we all get better at the thing we're doing all the time? And certainly I'm not comfortable enough to phone anything in. It's not like I go, I'm going to just do this one, I'll make $1 bazillion, and the economics just aren't there. So now all I'm left with is doing something better and better, so that what I'm creating, or I can be proud of. I can look back and go, yeah, I did that.
You did that. Well, you did this. And again, I love Drunk Log, book 1, and am so excited to think that book 2 is coming relatively soon.
Yeah.
The story continues, and that's good. And certainly you learn more, you get better, like exercise.
I hope so.
As you do. Well, so. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be.
No, you're right. You're right.
You've seen that. Yeah. And again, having read it, I don't want to say I can't imagine. Certainly, it's going to continue to progress. Certainly, your skills progress. And firstly, you want to do better, and you will do better. I don't want to sound like a psychologist.
That's okay. I'm not going to interrupt.
Mark, you're going to be,
Yeah.
it's going to be fine. You're going to progress. And people are going to love it.
You'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Again, to having read it, it's just, you'll want, folks, when you read Drunk Log, you'll yearn. I mean, it's a great book standing alone. But you will yearn. You'll enjoy the experience so much. My opinion, for me, that I'm yearning for.
Gosh,
books and interested. Yeah, and interested where it's going to go. A little bit about your website and availability. I hope I didn't keep you too long. Of Drunk Log.
The book is available on Amazon, B&E, iBooks. There's weird, like if you want to order it from England, there's a couple of websites over there. You can. It's strange, but
really,
yeah, it's very easy to find online.
Yes.
And then locally, if you live in the Cincinnati area, you can go to Joseph Beth or Roebling Books, and it's in the 2 or 3 venues down here. Yeah, I hope to get it more, of course. So,
have you done a signing at any of the?
I have.
That like for you? Yeah,
did one at Roebling's. So that was fun. The signings are always fun to actually hear people in the moment what they want to say. I'm not good at blurbs though. I don't think I am. I'm great at signing my name, but I'm like, oh, Stacy, I love that you brought your dog, Mark Scott.
Yeah. You got a great sense of humor. That's you brought yeah, and then you sign the autograph. That's great. Again, for that experience, and you're talking about the bookstores. You in Cincinnati, you've got independent booksellers.
We do, yeah, a lot of them.
Because I know a lot of places in the country, in this area included, they've gone, and COVID's certainly part of it. But even prior to that, the ability to order on Amazon. Not criticizing the ability to get them. Well, yeah.
My mom is also wonderful at selling my books, or at least giving them away. If I have time, I can give a quick shout out to Emilio Estevez. Please.
Go ahead.
So I had this fan. Emilio Estevez lives somewhere downtown here. I'm sure it's under a false name or whatever, so we can't all just hang out in front of his house. But he loves the city, and I had this fantasy the whole time I was writing. I'm like, man, if I could get Emilio Estevez to make this into a movie, that'd be incredible, And so my mom, maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, she calls me on a Saturday night, and I didn't answer the phone because I was watching probably a Star Wars movie, and I called her back. I'm like, what's up? She goes, guess who I just talked to? And I said, who? She goes, Emilio Estevez. And I said, you're crapping me. And she goes, no, I was leaving the restaurant. She lives about a block from me here. And right across the street is the restaurant they were eating in, or across the street from her. And there he was sitting there with another couple and a significant other of his own, I imagine. And I said, and she chatted him up on the book.
Like, love that.
I said, how did he handle it? She said, well, at first he was a little cool, but he was very friendly, and he started telling her a story about his mom trying to get him a gig when he was younger.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I said, did you give him a copy of the book? And she goes, no. I said, give him a copy of the book. So she went back to her condo, grabbed a copy, and he was just leaving, and they accepted it.
That's great.
Now, it's quite possible that book ended up in a street trash can soon thereafter, but he was kind enough to take it from her and thank her for it.
And it's interesting, Mark, that you say that, because I had thought in one of the copious notes, a lot of notes I have questions that I neglected or failed or just didn't ask. But one of the things I thought, it's interesting you say that, because I thought, like maybe now you say a Netflix series or something like that in episodes. I mean, a movie, please don't miss it. A movie would be great. For me, this would be something, if I visually, you'd want to continue. I could see
Wow.
sitting in theater and watching it and being very satisfied. Again, I don't want to make this sound like a criticism of a movie. It'd be fantastic. I would love for that to happen for me, for you, for people to have the opportunity to see it, especially people that don't read. I don't know who they are, but there are people that don't read. Yet I kind of envisioned I don't know, what do you want, mini series or something that would.
Well, I'm willing to go with your idea too, Louis.
Well, I mean, either way, Mark, obviously it would be great.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I was thinking, because even reading it, the visual, I think, could be, and you're very wonderful at descriptions. So
Thank you.
again, I see what you wrote.
Oh,
Again,
wow.
I know I've said this 100 times, feel like you're there, which is wonderful. To actually have it displayed on a screen, I think would be amazing. And I think because of what you deal with in Drunk Log, I think people would be really, really interested on a lot of levels and could create a lot of discussions. Oh God, now I'm thinking of groups of people getting around discussing it and thinking about it. And
maybe doing a pub crawl based on the book.
oh God, that would be great. Yes. I'll have to get down to Cincinnati when you do that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
we're talking about independent booksellers. I get people order from Amazon. I understand the convenience and ease of it. I've always advocated for local independent booksellers, and because so many of them are gone, which I still do. When you said Barnes and Noble can and will order it in store for you, because that way, again, I was never initially fond of the chains because I thought they were part of what was ending the independent booksellers. Now I have a different way of looking at it. They're either building, buying property, or renting in your community. They're hiring people in your community. They're helping your community. Again, it's local people. They're not sending in people from somewhere else. They may initially or may have someone in, but so you're actually patronizing your community.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a different view of that. So go into the Barnes and Noble. I know there's a number of them here, and ask them to order Drunk Log. Of course, Amazon can get it to you somehow very quickly.
I don't know how they do it.
Thank you. I don't know how they do it. It was, I remember in the early days, I think of the mid days of the pandemic, I had someone tell me that they were reading the book. She emailed that they were reading the book from the author I had on the day before, and a lot of places were shut down. I said, how could you? Yeah, well, Amazon delivered it this morning. I ordered it after the interview. They had it delivered the next day. I still don't get it. If people try to explain, well, they have warehouses. It's still, their warehouses don't have every item. How do they do that? I don't know. It scares me a little bit. Are they listening? Do they know?
Oh, they're listening.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you have one of the devices that
right.
I can't remember what Amazon's is.
Yeah. How do they know I needed dog diapers yesterday?
They did, because they are listening. But I think that's wonderful. And again, Amazon can have it. If you can't get out and get it, or for whatever reason, I get the Barnes and Noble set up, get and read Drunk Log. I've said this many times. I love it. I love the feeling. And knowing that more is coming, of course, is very satisfying to me. Well, makes me a little anxious, eager. It's like, come on.
It's done. It's all on the publisher at this point.
Yeah. And so it'll, at least knowing it's in that process is wonderful. And book 3, have you?
I have about 2/3 of a chapter to go for book 3, and I'll give that to them.
Wow.
Yeah. That one's, that one's, it's tough to finish out, 160,000 words or whatever. So, I'm struggling a little bit to make it right, to make it worth those last 10 pages or those last 15 pages,
Well, from reading Drunk Log, I'm certain that you will. I don't know how you'll do it, And I'm not going to ask for spoilers or where
Okay.
you're at this point, because I don't want the spoiler. I personally, I don't want to know. I want it to develop for me as I'm reading. But I just, again, I love the book, Drunk Log. Mark E. Scott, author.com. A minute about your website.
Oh, it's pretty basic. Just a picture of me wearing a similar shirt, and and some background on where I grew up, and the book, and then very soon the next book. So
That'll be great. I love that. I really love your personality. Again, you never know. You can. My experience has been over my radio days, which, by the way, is spelled with a Z. That I have found, you can love the book, and kind of hate to say this, the no filter thing. You may be not as happy
with the person,
talking with the person. I dare use the word a little disappointed. You thought, oh wow, you're all excited, you're all the work, and you love the work, and then you talk with someone and they seem, I shouldn't be using like bland or something. That's not you. You still love the book, by the way. When you talk with you still love the book, you love the work, of course. That's not you. You've got a great personality.
Thank you.
I've truly enjoyed it. So I'll be watching. You'll let me know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Book 2 comes out. I can't wait to read it. Drunk Log, Mark E. Scott, author.com. You got to read it. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for doing the game.
Thank you so much for having me on, Louis.
And putting up with my ramblings and disconnected thoughts and my wackiness, my general wackiness.
It makes life interesting.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Folks, again, I would encourage you to get the book, read the book. I loved it. I just enjoyed